Thank you so much for meeting with me today. My name is Antara. I'm from mxdwn.com, and I'm here with Eric Hilton, successful DC restaurateur, half of the Thievery Corporation duo, and now solo artist. So Eric has dropped 2 tracks ahead of his release of his first Ambient album, Out of the Blur, which is set to be released through MontserratHouse in Emerald Wave on June 28th.
That's correct.
Okay, sweet. We're just gonna jump right in.
Okay.
So you've shared that Out of the Blur was born from grief, but also from clarity. So with the wide range of genres that you already have in your tool belt, these sentiments really could have been expressed through any form of music, right? So what inspired you to choose ambient to communicate these feelings?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons. Probably a few are that I'm not a singer-songwriter. I'm a producer artist, so I couldn't really sing about my feelings. And I didn't even really know what my feelings were per se. So for the first time in a long time, I had a writer's block making music, and I just didn't feel like making music at all. But I had dabbled in ambient music, and I decided that I would just do that. And I found that it was very helpful in kind of processing emotions that I had with the passing of my very close friend and engineer, Igor. And I loved doing it, and I found that it's a type of music that I really enjoy making, and it's very private to make it. You don't really need to make ambient music with anybody else. I actually don't think you should. You should probably make it completely on your own, which is what I did, and it was just very helpful to me. And I think people turn to ambient music to feel certain emotions and kind of keep it in the background sometimes to just let emotions kind of come out and forms of clarity. That's what it did for me.
Okay, so kind of piggybacking on you being able to express how you were feeling through this type of music. So obviously, a lot of people express their feelings through lyrics, and obviously your craft is heavily instrumental. So, and then ambient music, taking it a step further, is typically void of like the sounds that we're used to hearing and the instruments that we're used to hearing. So how would you say you're able to communicate these feelings with the absence of both of these elements?
Well, that's just the magic of music. I think that, music is one of those things in life that's indescribable, and that's why we listen to it, because there really are no words to describe music. It's like a color. You can't really describe a color, right? And that's, the special thing about those elements of life. So, um, but I do like to dabble in the not so obvious, right? So I find that a lot of the interesting found sounds and sound shaping you can do in ambient music is maybe even a little bit more liberating than traditional forms of music. Like if I'm making a Brazilian cut, I know what I'm generally working with guitar and bass and certain elements of percussion, but in an ambient piece, you can literally use anything. I mean, some people use all sound effects. And I was just using whatever sounded good to me in that particular piece. It's like a collage in a way.
So I know that each track on Out of the Blur was influenced by really distinct memories and experiences that you've been through. So which of these tracks would you consider to be the most impactful while you were making music that was this deeply personal to you?
Um, I'm sorry, I got distracted there for a second.
No problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm so
So I know,
sorry.
no worries. So
You
I
can
know
cut
that
that
you
part.
said, so each track on Out of the Blur was influenced by really distinct memories and experiences for you. So which of these tracks would you say, would you consider to be the most impactful, like while you were making this album?
Well, that's really okay. So the first track, Out of the Blur, was the first track that I made on the 5-song album. And that one was I mean, it really sticks out, even though it might not be the best song on that record. It's really important to me because it was the first one,
Mhm.
and I listened to it probably more than any of them because that was when I just got started, and it was the one that I found the most helpful, and it was right after the death of my friend, and I kind of just built it over a few days, and then I would drive through the city listening to it on my car, and I was finding that it was really interesting just to look at life, but with this soundtrack behind you. And so that one was very immediate. It was not about any sort of past experience. It was about, what was happening right then and there. So that sticks out a lot. I did mention, like on Circle of Eyes, that I had this incredible experience with hypnosis, which I haven't done a lot of that since, but I definitely recommend that everyone try it and don't be afraid of it because I don't know how this happened when I got hypnotized for the first time, but I did have kind of a trippy experience that, I kind of explained it. It, it ended in this like tape loop of all the faces, seemingly all the faces of everybody that I ever met in my life, kind of going in front of me. And it was very realistic. And, there were people I hadn't seen in a long time. And it was strange that those elements of your brain and your existence could come out in this one process. So, I mean, I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget the feeling I had after I was hypnotized. It was like incredible. And it made me realize that there's a lot more in there, in our heads than we even know. It's a vast universe in there. So that was definitely a past experience that I drew on. Um, and then there's another one, Starlings, that I had a period in my life where I kind of just spent a couple months doing the same ritual every night in the summer of just like watching the sky in the back of my house, and just there were always these swarms of birds, and I just thought it was just so beautiful. And I did that for like 2 months, as a ritual, and it was a very pleasant experience. So it's kind of an ode to that.
So what I'm gathering is that all of these tracks pretty much were impactful for you because and honestly that makes sense considering the record is so short. So
Mhm.
it's you have these really powerful five pieces of work that seem to have really spoken to you and were really healing for you.
Mhm.
Um so I know that you also said that you believe in the healing power of music and you really want people to use this as like a sonic meditation and it's going to make them feel centered and it's going to make them feel good. At what point would you say you first became privy to the healing power of music? Is this something that you've unlocked more as a solo artist, or is it something that you kind of were dabbling in with the Thievery Corporation?
I've been dabbling in that since I was a kid, but yeah, but specifically, okay, with Thievery Corporation and sort of just vibrational frequencies about music. I remember that in our first studio at 18th Street Lounge, we had a window looking onto an alley. It was not a good view at all, but you could see the sky from the window too. So a lot of times as we were making a song, I would look at the beautiful blue sky and clouds, and if it did not complement that that view, I knew the song was not up to snuff. Like it had to at least match the vibrations that I got just from looking at the sky, which is always a beautiful thing for us to look at. So that's sort of a vibrational match, I guess. You don't want, didn't want something to bring me down from that. I wanted to match that feeling. So, music is just vibrations. That's all it is. And it's we resonate with all different kinds of music for different reasons. And um obviously in the church they sing hymns, and those hymns are supposed to really center people and inspire them or comfort them. So that's music, I think, is the most powerful art form bar none. I mean, it is really literally the most powerful art form. I've never gotten those feelings from looking at a two-dimensional piece of art on the wall.
Right.
No disrespect to painters and sculptors out there, but
Yeah, they probably might differ a little bit, but this
right.
is your art. This is your
Yeah,
art. This is
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
like there's gonna be a little bit of an inclination there.
yeah.
So during the pandemic, you began releasing music that was separate from the Thievery Corporation.
Mhm.
I know you kind of touched on it in the last question, but how would you describe your music making process as a band member for 25 years versus a solo artist now? Do you feel like they have any impact on one another?
Yeah, well, they definitely do, just because I mean, there's a lot of me in Thievery Corporation. But I found that making music for Thievery Corporation was becoming a little bit like making music for a performance act. Because over time, strangely, what Rob and I created as Thievery Corporation started to develop into a live act. And that was never my intention, even though it was pretty amazing because we did, travel the world and still do performing. But I just wanted to make music. And I found myself more and more making music with like the live show in mind, like, oh, this will be great in the show. And, this, and I didn't like that because I actually just wanted to make music that I just want to listen to like that day, and I didn't want another purpose for that music. So when I started doing my own music, I didn't have another purpose. I just made music that I wanted to make that day, and I enjoy that a lot. So I will still make music for Thievery Corporation, but I will make a lot more of my own probably.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of that, I know you said that you never really truly embraced touring because it felt like tourism to you. So, with
Oh, yeah.
Thievery
My partner
Corporation,
Robbie hates that quote because he thinks it's insulting to touring, but
and then I keep bringing it up.
yeah, yeah. No, it's okay. It's good that you bring it up. It's funny.
So with Thievery Corporation, okay, so you guys have this really long 4-month international tour coming up. So
Uh-huh.
how do you prepare yourself for like long stretches of shows like this, especially someone who has like such deep roots in DC and such deep roots in like you doing other things?
Oh, well, you didn't know that I don't perform with Thievery Corporation anymore. Like I stopped a few years ago, since like 2018, I believe. So, I mean, I rarely go out on the road. I do it occasionally. And I did a full European tour a few years ago. But, for me, like, look, neither Rob nor I, we're not like players of music. We can play, but we produce music. We make it in the studio, and then our hired band, who are all of our friends, are really the great players and performers. So when I'm there on the stage with them, I feel like I'm just there. I'm there to sort of kind of make an appearance, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the art. The art is making the music in the studio, creating it. That's the art. And I try to tell some friends, like, look, it would be like Andy Warhol making a art piece that kind of gets him off. But well, actually, he might be a bad example. But then it's like going to the art exhibit. Like you're not doing anything, but you're just there, like, hey, look what I
Into
got,
your
what I
work.
did.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's a bit of an ego boost, and it's fun to see the crowd, resonate with your music. But you're not making any art. You're kind of
That's
there to enjoy with them, right? But I've done that probably 700 times in 80 countries. So I'm really focused on just making music now.
So can fans expect to see you on any of the 4-month stops on this tour? Just making a
No,
guest appearance? No?
I don't have any plans actually to be on the road with the band. But I have a lot going on in the studio though.
Yeah, no, I believe you. I believe you. So kind of piggybacking on you guys being in 80 countries and all these influences that were in the Thievery Corporation music, like your sound thrives off of all of these sounds and influences from around the world. However, as a band, you guys were always really careful to highlight appreciation versus appropriation.
Mhm.
So, can you talk about how the band was able to walk this line in creation of your own sound?
Well, that's a great question. And it is tough because I mean, early on, I saw a few pieces of criticism where, the appropriation word was used. And, of course I didn't like seeing that, but it made me think a lot about it. And um I think we're pretty bold in what we try to do in music, and maybe it's a little naive at times, but we just kind of don't care. Like, I mean, we make Arabic music, and we're not Arabic, and we don't speak Arabic, and we're not even trained in that scale. Um, and Brazilian and Jamaican music, but it is born out of appreciation because we are such lovers and consumers of music that I'm usually looking for kind of the exotic and the great. So that combination is what really draws me to music. And exotic is just something you're not familiar with, right? So I like to kind of immerse myself in music that I'm not familiar with, and then I just love Jamaican music and Brazilian music, and you know just kind of my thing.
So how now that you've kind of completed your first ambient album and you do have a love for all these genres and you still I'm sure you're probably still dabbling in those things, but can fans now expect this ambient album to kind of be your new sound moving forward, or do you have other projects in the work at this time?
I mean, I hope to do another one, in that genre. I'm not currently working on anything. Like, I think I might have like one song that would fit within that genre. I'm really like all over the place. I mean, it just depends on the mood. Yeah, I could be making Brazilian one moment and sort of like futuristic jazz the next. And that's why Thievery Corporation is such a great brand to deposit music into, because we've trained our fan base over many years to kind of expect the unexpected. And we'll do a bossa nova song, and then we'll do warning shots, which is like hardcore beats and speed rapping and stuff. So it's been a luxury to be able to release so much diverse music under the same brand. Whether it works in for Eric Hilton music, I don't know, but I'm going to do it anyway. And the next record, it'll be probably more psychedelic and Indian, Turkish, and sort of Eastern sounds. Will be in that record a lot, but who knows?
Okay, that's really interesting because I was gonna ask if there were any genres that on your list that you wanted to explore that you haven't already. But if you named three, are there any more? Are there genres you want to
Genres, no, not really. I mean, I'm not really hearing like new genres of music that I want to explore. I'm one of those people who kind of looks backwards, for inspiration. Because I feel like everyone really does that anyway. It's hard to create a brand new type of music. Um, but yeah, no, I can't. All right, so yes, there is this vintage Argentinian tango song that I might work with my friend Natalia Clavier, which is very, very old world sounding. It won't even sound electronic. So that's a genre that I haven't really, been immersed in that much.
Okay. Well, going back to the ambient projects that you've been working on, who are some of the influences for you, like for your sound on this project?
Definitely Brian Eno. He's, kind of known as the king of ambient music. Um, yeah, who else? The name is escaping me right now. He did some really cool 60s soundtracks in the past, but no real composer. I mean, Robert Fripp and the kind of obvious ones, John Cale. Um, Maybe even some that are outside of that genre, but they still touch, my soul in a way, like the Cocteau Twins and Dead Can Dance. I would say Dead Can Dance sounds a lot like circle of eyes or vice versa. So there's definitely a linkage there. And you're probably like, who's dead can dance, but they're kind of, you should check them out. They're cool. They're from the 80s, I believe, 80s and 90s, but they're kind of like a tribal ambient ensemble with sounds very classical.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're cool.
Okay, so when people are, I'm sorry, and this is gonna be our last question. I'm not gonna keep you for too much longer after this. But I always wondered like the sounds that you guys are putting into the ambient music, like where do they come from? Like what are they usually? Like when you sit down and you kind of like put all these sounds together, like where are they coming from?
Literally anywhere. Could be from records, could be from synths, also samples. Well, from records, it's a sample, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So it could be a piece of a keyboard line, and you just take like one chord. I'm like the king of sampling. I just love sampling. So, and I love like sampling little bits, like quick little bits, and then making things from them. Also, like public domain sample stuff, like sample packs, like that you can buy on Loop Masters, or Splice is good. Everyone I talk to about Splice, it's like a service where you pay $10 a month and you have access to all these beats and sounds. I mean, it's like the world is your oyster. So it seems like, oh, that's easy. You just make, but no, it's hard to find good things and then combine them. So, that's another sort of treasure trove there. But it's like
Yeah.
you have to find the needle in the haystack too.
Yeah, that's what I always like picture ambient music being, is literally having to string together all of these tiny little pieces, because like I said, there's it's like devoid of like the regular sounds that we're used to hearing in like
Right.
instruments. So it's like I've always wondered like what in the world is this sound that I'm hearing?
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's part of the appeal, and there's a lot of effects that go on too,
Mhm.
right? So sometimes the effects are almost like as important as the instruments themselves.
Right. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me today and walking
Yeah,
us through this
definitely.
process. I really do hope that the album performs and does all the things for you. Of
Thank you. I appreciate it.
course. All right. Thank you so much.
All
You
right.
have a great day.
Okay, have a good day.